watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
It is Thursday, August 15th, another summer edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with you. What's going on, Rosie?
What's going on? Not much, man. Time's ticking. Some news broke finally in Toronto Maple Leaf land. That's a nice change of pace. But yeah, man, creeping closer to training camp, man. It's kind of exciting.
55 days away now if you're keeping score at home, keeping count at home from the season opener on October 9th in Montreal. You mentioned a lot has transpired since the last time we spoke. A lot of people on social media wanted your opinion in the whole LeBron James just spurning that kid. Did you catch that?
Oh, yeah, I caught it. I mean, I'm not surprised, dude. Fuck. And like a kid comes up to wants a selfie. It's only one kid. It's not like he's getting mobbed by people. He could have easily just ducked down, snapped, kept walking. And instead he totally stiff arms this kid, then points in his face twice, and then walks into the bar that is a VIP, high-end, bottle service, first-class thing that everyone on the street probably couldn't even afford to get into. Walks in there and then does this stupid little dance to announce, hey, everybody, I'm here. Look at me. I'm LeBron. And what just rattles me is that he knows this is where everyone's watching. Like sometimes an athlete will get kind of caught when he thinks he's kind of not on camera. He does something shitty. Oh, total screw up. You know, you got to be a role model. This is in front of all the lights and cameras and he acts like that. Every single thing about LeBron James that's off the court is awful. He's a brutal person. It's gone to his head so much. Like, tell me an athlete that's more arrogant and conceited and just ruder and just more awful than this guy. He is the worst guy in the world. And like I said, and to talk about like John Tavares, for example, as much as I find his interviews boring and stuff, compare him to LeBron James. Like, class and professionalism. LeBron James just lives in his own world while he's getting tattooed on himself about how gifted and incredible and chosen he is. I frickin' cannot stand the guy in that video. Is just another one of many that sums him up.
Yeah, I was laughing when I saw that video. I'm like, oh, Rosie's gonna have a field day with this. If you haven't caught wind of this whole thing on this podcast the last couple years since doing this together, Rosie is not a big fan of LeBron James. So something like this transpires, we are going to bring it up on the podcast. But yeah, I was with you. I mean, the kid was by himself, and actually watching a lot of video of Team USA enter that club for some reason. Everybody was in a pissy mood. Even like there was a video with Steph Curry where he was a little annoyed. It's like, you guys should have won by 40. You barely won that tournament. You needed Steph Curry to go off. But yeah, I think that rubbed people the wrong way considering it was LeBron James and it was like one kid. It wasn't a throng of kids.
No, and I get it, man. Being a guy of his stature, I mean, the constant barrage of people and autographs and pictures, like I get it. But you're just coming from the Olympics. It is the biggest world stage that there is. You guys have this hyper stacked dream team together that should annihilate anyone who even steps on the court with you. You barely sneak it out because you're all a bunch of individual egomaniacs, all of them. And then you can't even hide. You can't even hide it for a little bit while you're on that world stage and just be a good guy. Hey, just even if you're in a bad mood, pretend you're a good guy. Can't even muster that. And why do you got to pretend you're in a good mood? You literally have a gold medal dangling around your neck. Like, he's such a piece of garbage, man. I don't know why he doesn't get more. I know he gets a ton of heat, but like, I don't know why he doesn't get more. And the fact that people argue that he's the GOAT and all this stuff, he's a joke, man. Like, Jordan just puts him to shame in every single way.
Not to mention he ruined his kid's career, right? He got pretty much the LA Lakers to draft his kid. His kid is nowhere close to being ready to be an NBA player, but all of a sudden, as a thank you to LeBron, the kid's making like $8 million over a 4-year contract. It's very LeBron James. I'm a big LeBron fan. I think Jordan was a dick too. All the greats are dicks, but it sucks when like moments like this come out in the sunshine. You're like, oh, that was probably not the right decision at that point in time for LeBron James. But hey, man, lots to cover on today's podcast. Want to promote first and foremost. We caught up with one of your former coaches in Toronto, Dallas Eakins, last week. That was a lot of fun. I thought he was awesome. I can't wait for people to hear this.
He is awesome, man. He is. You'll hear it. He's just a really, really solid guy. He reminds me a lot of John Cooper. I think they've got a lot of the same things going on. Dallas didn't really get quite the same opportunity, but especially in Edmonton, I know how that guy coaches. I know how he handles a locker room. And when he got to Edmonton with all the turmoil they had at the time, I know that they, made him coach a style that was not his, and it didn't work out. And the opinions I hear of him from people in Edmonton, I'm like, dude, you got the wrong guy, because he is solid, and I think you'll get that from this interview.
So Dallas Eakins coming up in about 15 minutes from now at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcasts. And don't forget to visit the LeafsNation.com. The opening segment is brought to you by Greta Bar YYZ. For a good time, find Greta, 590 King Street West. Weekly specials, live sports, over 60-plus arcade games. Let the games begin. Go big. Go to Greta Bar YYZ. So as you referenced, a rather big news week in Toronto, especially for mid-August, man. Like, these are the dog days, but we can break this down in chronological order for easy for me to say. Yeah, that's a tough one. So overall thoughts on the press conference and the handling of everything first.
Yeah, well, just seeing the press conference set up, I mean, it's hilarious how big the Maple Leafs are and what a production and big show and first class organization they are. I was thinking, like, if this was happening in Columbus, it would probably be a tweet. And then you look in Toronto and it's just this huge thing. But as far as the realities of taking the captain from John Tavares and giving it to Auston Matthews, I didn't think they were going to do it, and I didn't think they should do it. But after watching that press conference and seeing it, they have spun it very well. They have spun it in their favor very well. And of course, John Tavares has handled it very well. And after seeing the way the summer and free agency and everything went, I see it now, and I understand why they did it. It was a ballsy move where you could have just waited one more year and given the captaincy to Auston Matthews. They didn't want to do that, and I believe it's because they desperately want to change the face, the identity, the trajectory, the any way you want to call it. They want change in this locker room, in the organization. They've got it now with the coaching change, Craig Berube, and now they've got Auston Matthews leading the charge with a C on his chest, which isn't a huge deal, but it does, change the outlook of something. And when we talk about on this show, a lot of times teams are trying to find that special formula. Like, what is it? Everyone can look at people on paper, and it doesn't always translate to the ice. So this organization is trying to change something, and let's be honest, it's something that is intangible that you can't really put on paper, because they have this team that's hyper talented offensively, and every year when it matters, everyone's like, oh, they got to change their D. Like we say on this show all the time, it's not their D that hurts them. They can't score a bloody goal. There's a mental block. There's something going on within the group and collectively, mentally, that they can't get over. And maybe little changes like this are gonna, break something loose and allow them to go in a different direction mentally. But of course, John Tavares, as much as I make fun of his interviews and how boring they are, and there's no exception with this press conference. But one thing you can't take away from the guy is he is all class and all professionalism through and through. And for that reason, he is going to be whatever he wants to be in the league when he's done playing. He will be a general manager. He is just tailor-made for that role. And it's interesting for sure. And I don't think they could have spun it in a better way than they did.
Utter class. That's exactly my thinking, because I always like to think PR standpoint whenever these big things come out, whether it's a trade or something substantial like this, like changing the captaincy, even, down to the little things of having the kids of John Tavares' kids wear the Auston Matthews jersey. I thought that was great. I thought JT said all the great things. I like the fact that he brought up this is more about the evolution of Auston Matthews and where his game's at in his career than it is about John Tavares. Like everything, I don't know if this is rehearsed. I know John Tavares, when he spoke, he had a sheet of paper and it was rehearsed, but like everything said, like there wasn't a bad thing said. And I think spinning wise, like the conversation is more about how Auston Matthews has gotten here than it is about stripping John Tavares. Like even the way it came out that it was actually Tavares' idea and he was proactive. Like we all know that's bullshit, but I think the way they handle it is perfect. And on top of that, I think this is a perfect time to insert this news. Like mid-August, the Olympics just ended. People are on vacation. Everybody's going to forget about it really, really soon. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, that's the way they do it, right? And they have to do it because that market is so big, and every time they, sneeze, there is just a whirlwind of press over it. So this is going to get a lot of it. Obviously, they had tailored this thing and came up with a narrative and pushed that, and they stayed very much away from taking away from John and really leaned towards giving it to Auston. And that's fair enough. Auston Matthews has emerged in the last 2-3 years to be this monster. And I think he's only getting better. And you look at every other superstar in their organization and they kind of get the C probably earlier than Auston's gotten it. And just timing wise, it didn't really work out where John, stepped away from the organization for whatever reason, just, contracts end or you get dealt or you retire or whatever. And then the next guy gets the C. It didn't work out that way. And I kind of think it's fine, to be honest. And yeah, they go about it with their press conferences, which I'm not a guy that's really rehearsed. And like if I heard tremendous honor one more time in that press conference, I was gonna fucking snap. But it's the way they go about it. It's the way they have to go about it. Because if they go off the script for 1 second, everyone will jump to their computers, ourselves included, right? We like to dissect everything that's said, but they are a first-class organization. They're very organized. They came up with this. They spun it in a way that looked totally positive, and now going into training camp to see John being on the roster in maybe a different role just from the outside looking in, and see Auston emerge as, okay, this is my time. This is the Auston Matthews era. I'm okay with that. And as much as I thought that was a bad idea, the way they have spun it, I think kudos to them. They've done a really good job at it, and I don't think it'll be a distraction or anything negative.
Well, I'll tell you, they had 102 days, I think it was, from the ending of Game 7 to now to decide that this was going to be like, the timing for me is what gets me. But I also am fascinated with the fact that we talk about John Tavares, man, like he'll talk for days, whereas like Auston Matthews, even in his initial remarks, it was like 7 seconds long. Like he is not a good speaker. John Tavares is a good speaker. And I just wonder when something gets tough or something negative happens, how it's going to be handled by Auston Matthews. But without question, the passing of the torch probably happened 3 years ago. And I think it always helps when you have a guy like John Tavares at your service. The one thing I will say that was a bit surprising from my perspective is all this conversation about this rush to give John Tavares an extension. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but I don't know why you need to put a rush on things. Like I would play this out. I would see what John Tavares has this season and then reassess. Like, I think the one thing you have going for you is that he doesn't want to be anywhere else, it seems.
I know. I don't understand like this contract here. Like it used to kind of be, oh, his contract's up. Now we'll have a contract negotiation. And now it's like July 1st, we got to sign. And he's got another year left. Like it's just odd. Like why overlap? It really doesn't make sense to me. Play John Tavares this year. He's going to make his $11 million. We'll see what he's got in the tank and how much he can contribute and what role he slides into. And then after the season, you can have a conversation. You're not losing him as soon as the horn goes on the last game of the year. You still have all kinds of time to have those conversations, have the negotiations, and figure out where he fits. Why would you do it now when you don't even know what things are going to look like in 10 months? I don't understand that. I really don't. There's no rush in my mind to get him done. Maybe he has an off year. Maybe he slows down a little bit. Maybe he doesn't, gel well with his quote unquote new role as being, what's he going to be? Say he signs a 3-year extension. In what role is that? Is it in, what is the role and what is his value and how much money is he going to make and what's the term? I don't know right now. Let's see how this entire bloody season goes and then reassess from there. That would be the obvious thinking from a businessman standpoint, from a GM standpoint. Why would you want to rush it? So I'm never really of the class that thinks you have to sign a guy before his contract's even over. You signed him for X amount of years, let him play that, and then decide from there. You'll know more about where your cap is, who you get, what happens at the trade deadline. Like people put themselves in bad positions all the time because they make decisions before they have to, and then things change. I don't understand the benefit to signing John Tavares right now.
That's exactly it. And I won't lie. I'm a bit fearful that they're going to do the exact same thing that got them in this mess to begin with. Because the one thing to point out, this year specifically, it's the most they're paying the core four in general with the Matthews extension, with the Nylander extension. And my thinking is you have this weapon sitting there for you next summer in the form of cap space, something you haven't had in a long, long period of time. You look at Mitch Marner, you look at John Tavares specifically. So hypothetically, they go to the playoffs and they well up again. They can't get the job done. If you sign these guys now, then effectively, what changes are you making? I rather, kick the can down the road, specifically with Tavares. Like, the guy is attached here. His family's from here. He's from here. I get Mitch Marner is too, but I think we're at a point in John Tavares' career where I think he comprehends he's not going to get those type of dollars anymore. And I think if he wants to stay a Leaf, there's going to be a walkaway zone. And if he doesn't want it, then that's it. It's the old Steven Stamkos thing, although he hasn't won in Toronto. So I think you slow play this thing. And I think you want that cap space. You want to put yourself in a position to overhaul this team if you need to. Like, I just wonder if it doesn't work again and they lock these guys down, what do they do is my question.
Yeah, again, another reason to say what's the rush.
Yeah.
I just they're not going anywhere. It's not like they can sign with somebody else during the season, like it's soccer or like Formula One or something they announce in November that I'm going to go play for the Ducks next year. You're not going to lose them. So why would you do your own organization the disservice of locking something in when you don't know what the future holds? I just don't get it. John Tavares isn't going anywhere. Mitch is a different story. He's in his prime, but you mentioned Steven Stamkos. I doubt John's going to put up 40 rips this year and he's going to demand X. He's going to take a significant haircut. He knows he's getting overpaid this year. He probably wants to be in Toronto. He probably wants to be part of the future if they can make it, something to be excited about. And so far, they just keep shooting themselves in the foot by binding themselves with contracts. And they don't have to, is my thing. They don't have to do that. So why would you do yourself the disservice?
Exactly it, man. We're at sabbatical. Learn from your mistakes, and that was the only bewildering thing that I thought came from a really positive day. It could have been a very negative day. I mean, I know a lot of people on social media were poking and prodding at John Tavares. I thought the utmost class in the way he handled it, everything from his statement to having his family there, to his kids, to his parents, like it was just money in the bank. And I feel very optimistic about the future, especially having Auston Matthews as the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So job well done all around. For now, Rosie, I think it's time. We're going to send it off to our interview. First and foremost, just your general thoughts again on our time with Dallas Eakins before I turn things over here.
Yeah, Dally. I mean, when I think of him, I played for him on the Marlies, and we went to the Calder Cup finals. He coached that team, and we talk about getting that essence in the room of like everybody together. There's no friction. There's no split in the locker room. It's just kind of everyone doing the same thing. And Dallas Eakins got that room to do that. And it was special. It's what every team is looking to do, is get everyone together on the same page, playing as a team with all that chemistry. And I've never played for a coach that you wanted to go through a wall for that much. I've played for a lot of dickheads, and he is absolutely not one of them. And I was hoping and praying that when I knew Ron Wilson was going to get fired, that they would hire Dallas Eakins. I knew it was the right call. I knew he wasn't as experienced as they wanted, and I thought that might hold him back, and it did. And they hired Randy Carlyle. And the second the news broke, the room was fractured. It was a stupid mistake. They went with the safe route and went with experience. But Dallas is a solid guy. I think you'll think of it. You'll see it in the interview. He's over in overseas right now, getting some like general manager experience and stuff. But I think if you read between the lines, he's eager to come back to the National Hockey League at some point.
Very well said. And yeah, he did definitely have some opinion on this current Maple Leafs roster as well. So here is Dallas Eakins.
We want to welcome Dallas Eakins to the show right now. Dallas, you're in Mannheim, Germany right now. How is the summer going? You're full tilt right now, as I understand.
Yeah, well, hey, number one, thanks for having me, guys. Yes, I'm in Mannheim, Germany. I decided to come back here as the general manager and coach. Yeah, it's the dog days of summer back in Ontario and around the NHL, but we are full into halfway through the first week of training camp.
I think there's so many unique aspects, I'm sure, of coaching and just being around, overseas. What do you like so much about that experience?
Well, there's a number of things. There's not much I haven't done on the NHL side in North America. The one thing that I really wanted to do was get some experience on the general manager side. It gives me the opportunity here to take a team that has, kind of gone awry, a team that needs to be rebuilt a little bit culturally to get back to their championship ways. So building something and being in charge of that was definitely exciting. The second thing is my alignment with ownership here. Actually, going back, my first contact with this team was when I was a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So Daniel Hopp, the owner here, is as good as they come. Like, this is a guy that I could easily own an NHL team one day. His passion for the game and his passion for people are unmatched. So that was a big reason here. And thirdly, and not to be too long-winded, I've never coached international hockey. And to come over on the bigger rink, a little bit different style of play, certainly interests me from the coaching side. So I'm able to check off a lot of boxes on things that I haven't done. And it's certainly inspiring for me.
So as you say, there's some differences in international hockey. You've got a year under your belt, but what are some of those differences? You're going to coach a group of players. It's hockey, but what are some of the big differences with going over the pond?
Well, first, the workload. It's, we play way less games. In North America, like you break. Well, actually, before we get to that, training camp. In the NHL, you practice twice, maybe 3 times, and you're into an exhibition game. Like, we have basically 5.5 weeks of training camp here where we can really let our players get their feet underneath them. The second part is during the season, our regular season is 56 games, and there's lots of practice time. There's lots of time for recovery. There's lots of time for development. And then on top of that, like, the league absolutely shuts down for, international play, for national team break. So, like, we have basically a 9-day break in November. We have another 9 or 10-day break in February. So all of that is different, the way you set up your practices, your scheduling, your recovery. And then lastly, just the big ice alone, like, you're able to do things differently on the ice and be a little bit more creative using that space, whether it's on breakouts or entries, especially ozone play. So it just lets you think about the game a little bit differently. Instead of going into every year, basically you tweak things a little bit in the NHL, but it doesn't really change that much.
As a hockey fan, it's been one of my bucket list things to check out a game in Europe. Can you describe the atmosphere for games there?
I do not want to be disrespectful to the NHL. There are some amazing buildings there. Even in the American Hockey League, there are some amazing buildings. But what I experienced, I came in midway through the season last year, and what I experienced here really caught me off guard. I will put our building up here in Mannheim against any building in the NHL. And it is more of a, soccer experience. The fans are packed in, a 7:30 game. They're lining up outside at 4:00. The building is sold out every night, and they never stop singing. It never ends, and it is loud. It is incredible how the fans organize themselves with their different colors and signs and schemes that they have going up, and it's all on their own. It's an incredible experience to come to. I got to experience it. Obviously, my family has come in, and they're just simply amazed by it.
I can imagine. Obviously, things are going well over there and your priorities are there. Do you think that if things change down the road, you come back to North America, you could take some of those principles that you've learned from coaching and being involved in that atmosphere and bring them back to perhaps the NHL at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe more importantly on the managing side, like, having to build a team and dealing with agents and looking down the road and recruiting and getting the right young people signed, having a development program. The other thing we have here that our owner, Daniel Hopp, has is we have like a U20 team, U17, U fit, like we go right down the road. And this is where, Leon Draisaitl came through. This is where Mo Seider came through. This is where Stützle came through. And so it's not just the pro team that I've got my hands in and, obviously shaping. There's part of my responsibility is that too. So there's a whole lot of things here that, selfishly set me up for down the road. And I'm just a big believer in all of my experiences going through this, crazy life that we all get to experience is that you're never sure what the next opportunity is going to be. You're never sure what your next passion is going to be. And I think being here is just such a great opportunity. And number one, provided because the ownership, Daniel Hopp, I can't tell you enough, like this is how ownership should be. And he is all in on doing whatever it takes to rebuild our organization.
I'm happy you brought up the management aspect because that's been the fascinating thing for me in the NHL world, at least, is the turnover coaching wise. Like I honestly wonder sometimes why people want to coach in this league, and maybe it's a better route, the Barry Trotz route now after he coached, to be a GM. Is that the way you think things will trend? And in general, what do you make of the coaching carousel in this league in this day and age?
Well, hey, it's going to sound biased because I've been a coach. And I'm going to be quite honest. I think it's ridiculous. Like, I just think it's ridiculous. And I think Barry Trotz is going to be one hell of a GM. And because all you have to do is take the title, right? The title is general manager. And, Barry Trotz has been managing people, staff for a very long time. And I think he's going to do a great, great job. The thing I'm not going to complain about is the turnover. Even though I think it's ridiculous, we all know what the deal is. My greatest mentor, he was like my second father, was Roger Nielsen. I think Raj was fired 7 or 8 times in the NHL. It's just part of the deal. But it's troublesome to me that when a team struggles, it's first, gong the coach and then work from there. And I just think there should be a bigger level of patience moving forward. But hey, that NHL, that is set up to, hey, you're there to win. And if you don't win, you understand it going in that your head is first on the block every time. It is part of the deal. But the thing that does encourage me, and I think it drives fans crazy sometimes, is guys that are in the league, they turn over, they go to another organization. And the thing that really warmed my heart is my great friend, the guy that gave me my first chance as a coach, is Paul Maurice. And obviously, I'm close with Paul. I followed his career. When he went into Florida, and anybody can do this, I want you to go look at what was written about him and what was tweeted about him and said about him when he was hired there. It is so much fun to read now, to go back and to have a look at how he was viewed and how he is viewed now. Like, that man is one hell of a coach. He's an amazing communicator. And you know what? He's been moved around from here to there. But I think that's the only thing that is encouraging, is that even though you get moved on as a coach, there are other opportunities waiting for you if you can find the right one for you.
Well, speaking of new coaches, I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs have got Craig Berube. He's at the helm now. His first year is going to start. That team's had problems getting it done in the playoffs. They've got a lot of talent and a lot of scoring power up front, although they run into problems scoring in the playoffs when it matters. And to me, that's a mental block. All these contracts they're moving around and unable to move around, they are what they are, and they're in place, and they're going to have the team that they have this year. How much do you think Craig Berube can come in and maybe jumpstart, change, alter the mentality of those players to try to have success this season?
Yeah, well, I'll back it up even a step further. Like, like Brad Treleving is a very passionate, smart general manager. And having him come in with a different way to play, you can see already a difference in the players they're acquiring. Like, that's the first step of getting a new mentality on how to play. And I know you have to have success in the regular season just to get to the playoffs, but then you have to have a certain kind of team to win in the playoffs. So I think that step there was an important one. And now with Chief coming in, like, I just thought that was a great hire. Like, that is a Stanley Cup winning coach. There's no BS. There's no tiptoeing around any issues with Chief. He hits them head on. The other thing that I love that Chief and Brad did there, and I think there should be more of this in the NHL, I've been fairly vocal about this, is I think the more leadership you have on the bench, the better. And hiring Lane Lambert, who's been a head coach in the league, I think that is one hell of a hire. I just think it's an incredible hire because of the leadership there. So I think Sheldon Keefe did a hell of a job. I think he did everything he could. But I do think that, Chief coming in there will give the team, a different way of doing things, a different voice on how to encourage them and inspire them to do things. And, Chief's already taken a team all the way down the road to win a Stanley Cup, and he certainly knows what it takes to get there. I just think they've really hit it out of the park here with the manager, with Chief, and Lane Lambert coming in. And that's no disrespect to any of the other coaches. I just love that they've got two guys on their bench that have been head coaches in the league.
Naturally, a lot of the conversation in this market is about the players and the core players and the guys making a lot of money. And then you bring in a guy like Craig Berube and, his relationships, how things are going to work with some of the players. And ultimately it gets, it's down the pathway of like, is it going to work out? Are these guys the same player? Are they going to be the same player? Not to put you on the spot, Dallas, but do you have examples of working with players throughout your coaching career where they started at a certain place and you got them to that next level, or anybody that comes to mind when you think about that?
Well, here's the thing, like, rather than like single out guys, like I think, hey, like you need leadership at the top, right? You've got to have a good manager. You've got to have a good coach. You've got to have a good staff. You need great trainers, strength guys. Like, you need everybody pulling in the same direction. But when I talk to coaches that have won, and it doesn't matter if it's like 2 summers ago, I was in with Nick Saban for 5 days, or, I've been into other sports, or I talked to Paul Maurice. Like, when the players take true ownership, and when I mean ownership, that doesn't mean about, well, I took ownership of bad play. When they take full ownership of that dressing room and they're the ones driving the bus, that's when you can really do some special things. And I think that's what happened in St. Louis with Chiefs team. I thought he was a great leader, but then the team took ownership. I think that happened in Boston a number of years ago. Like, that Boston culture inspires me, that what like Chara and Bergeron built, and now it kind of continues on. And I just think that's the next step. I won't lie. Like, hey, I worked for the Toronto Maple Leafs for 8 years. I keep a close eye on that. Like, we still have a place in downtown Toronto. To a certain degree, I am still a fan of that organization. I feel a part of it because that's where I started. And so I do keep a close eye on their team. The thing that I struggle with for the players is the media attention there is so intense and so competitive. Like the media is competitive with each other. And once those playoffs start turning around, man, it immediately goes to what the Leafs haven't done in the past. And that kind of messaging coming in on the players, I do think it's a real skill to box that out. The other thing you said it, you didn't say the core four or whatever the hell they call those guys. You said the core. That drives me bananas. It drives me crazy because it quietly separates the team. And I get it. Hey, your best players got to be your best players. But it just makes me cringe when I hear that. So I remember Brad Treliving saying early about, hey, we're not calling them that anymore. He doesn't want to refer to that. I think Chief is going to treat every one of those guys as an individual in a team environment. But I am encouraged and I am excited to see how this goes for that group, because I do think they're poised with the new additions, that they're better set up to win in the playoffs. And I know I'm on a long rant here, but I got to finish with one thing. Paul Maurice said a really interesting thing. He goes, yeah, my first year I came in and I took the team from 106 points to whatever it was, 88 points or something. And the thing that's important is, yeah, you got to make the playoffs, but where you're judged is how you do in the playoffs. So I'm really excited to see how the Leafs will fare once they make the playoffs.
Agreed. And say you have, Dallas, in your experience, you have a direction that you want this team to go to and a finish line that you want them to become as a group. Do you approach it as, like you say, there's not the core four, you're not singling guys out. You put out your ethos and this is who we want to become, and you put it out there on a platter for everyone to jump on board? Or do you go a little bit more managerial side and, deal with players individually, and this guy needs a kick in the ass, this guy needs me to pull back on the reins, and do you kind of nitpick like that? Or is it kind of a combination of everything?
Yeah, hey, I'm not going to tell Chief what to do. He's got way more Stanley Cups than I do. And I'm certainly not going to try to tell Brad Treliving what to do. He's got a hell of a lot more experience than I do. But what I like to do with my team, I've already done it here, is coming out of last year on those year-end meetings. I asked a lot of questions on like who do you think we are, and who do you think we should be? Like what do we want to be known for? And then coming out of that, it's not that I walk in and go, hey, here's what we're going to be. Like, I think that's a really selfish thing to do as a coach. That's not my locker room. That's their locker room. And they're the ones that are going to go in there, do their skates up, and go out to battle every night. So I think it's really important, at least from my side, to listen and to really feel and hear what the players want to be known for and who they are. And with that, we go into basically our standards that everyone is going to be held accountable to. And I don't care if you're the best player or if you're our forward or our D-man that's out every night. It's like, these are the standards that we're going to be known for. And then after that, for me with our team here, is like, all of these guys are different. And so when it comes to individuals and what the messaging and how we try to inspire them, reason with them, talk to them, discipline them, it is all different. But when it comes to the standards of the team, it's something that the players have outlined, they've asked for, they're inspired to be, and that's how we roll with it.
How much would the lack of depth up front concern you if you were Craig Berube?
I don't think it probably concerns Chief at all. Like, I think if you look at any team in the NHL, I think every team has great strengths, and every team has weaknesses. I think the challenge on any given night, and man, it is a tough one through 82 games, is to fully play to your strengths, find a way to hide your weaknesses, and on the same same plane of thinking is, how can you exploit the other team that you're playing weaknesses and try to kill their strengths. So, if you want to talk about the Leafs have just some elite players, and that's hard to come by. It's hard to come by in the league. And I do think the depth of the organization up front on D is improving.
Obviously, this market we've talked about, difficult to play under. They've had their successes in the regular season, not so much in the playoffs. Would you be all right? And would you kind of almost want the market to understand that if Craig Berube comes in, kind of changes the mentality and maybe the identity to a degree of this team, if they take a step back in the regular season while they're trying to get all their ducks in a row, would that be all right with you? You mentioned it with Paul Maurice. It happened with him in Florida. To maybe take a step back regular season wise, if that means that they're more prepared for the playoffs?
You know what, Rosie? I love the idea. You've got a great, wonderful idea there. I know the passion of that Toronto market. That is not happening there. Like it's going to be every night. It's either win or bust. It's either parade or doom. It's like that's just how that market is. And this is why I love Chief there. Is like Chief is not going to give a crap about what anybody is thinking. And that is not disrespectful to the fans. It's not disrespectful to people that follow this team and pay huge dollars to buy merchandise, go to games, all of those things. It's not disrespectful, but it is necessary. And it's also necessary for the players to get a really callous brain, always respect the fans, always respect the media, but understand that nothing matters other than that group in that locker room. That's it. And it's easy to say. You understand it because you've been in those dressing rooms. It's easier said than done, but it takes a real skill, to not give an F about what anybody thinks and just to stick with it. And you can see right through the league, right through all sports, the players that you can see are affected by the outside noise. And then you also see players who they're just never affected by it. And that is the challenge of Toronto. And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. That's the circumstance there. And in any circumstance, teams, players have to make a choice. And they have to make that choice to, hey, stick with whatever they believe in, stick with the coach, stick with the manager, the president's vision. All of them just have to take a bunker mentality. At least that's my view from the outside.
Tie a bow on this conversation. I think the unique aspect of all this, Jay Rosehill played for both you and Craig Berube. You talk about the media being ruthless. I'm sure you've seen some of Rosie's work over the last couple of years, but what have you made of your former player and the way he's thriving here in media now?
Well, when I was, how your brain works fast, right? When I was saying, man, you never know what you're going to do next, like in this game or in your life. Like you never know where it's going to take you. And to think that Jay Rosehill, who I had the great pleasure of coaching, was going to end up being a voice in the Toronto media, a loud one and a very honest one. I would have never thought it. Like Rosie didn't say a whole lot in that dressing room until something was going down on the ice, and then he had a lot to say. And the one thing I know about Jay is like his passion for, number one, his teammates. He was a selfless guy, but the passion for the game. And the thing that I know with you, Jay, is like you don't suffer fools. You've always called it how you've seen it. And I keep a close eye on Rosie here and how he's going. But that's how you have to be in that job. You have to have a voice. You have to have an opinion, and you have to be forceful with your opinion because you said ruthless. I didn't say ruthless. I said the media there is competitive. And if you want to compete, then you have to have a voice and you have to stand by what you say. And the great thing I know about Jay is it's kind of like I was saying about that bunker mentality. Rosie, you don't give an F what anybody thinks, man. Like, you're just going to go, here's my opinion, I stand by it, and that's it. And I think that's a great game plan in the business you guys are in.
Well, Dally, we sure appreciate it. And yeah, we're doing the best we can. You know the market as well as anybody, but you're in a new market overseas, and we love the way you're getting that experience in the GM role. We know you're a great hockey mind, and we appreciate your time taken with our show right here today. And hopefully things go well over there. I hope selfishly you're not one of those guys that goes over there and never comes back, because we'd love to see you on this continent again sometime soon.
Well, I appreciate that, Nick. No offense to you, but like, Rosie, like, man, you're getting better looking with age. You're going to have to get on TV more.
There you have it, Dallas Eakins, and he had to take the final blow at me at the end, but I guess I deserve it, right?
I'd take it too. I don't blame him, to be honest with you. It's fine.
Very thankful of his time on the show, and obviously a lot to say dealing with his time in Germany, even being with the Maple Leafs. He still watches the Maple Leafs, which is kind of cool. And just his thoughts. I like that he's pumped up about the brain trust that they've built here in Tree Living. Obviously, Craig Berube, and even what he said on Lane Lambert, right?
Yeah, I know, man. It's funny. Once you're in this market, I mean, I'm a victim of it too. Not a victim, but I'm guilty of being kind of attached to the Leafs for long after you're gone. And he's the same way. He's still got a place in Toronto. So there's something about that organization that makes you want to still follow it even when you're not part of it anymore. And obviously he's no exception. So it's nice that he still follows. And I think we should reach out to him a little bit more throughout the season, get his take on it, because I know that he'll be watching. And I'm kind of surprised, but I'm happy and that most guys say, oh, I want to be here forever, I got no plans for the future and blah blah blah, which he's very happy where he is. But he did say, I'm getting experience in the general manager role, and I'm not closing the door at getting over to the NHL where everything's happening. So I'm excited to see his progression as his career continues.
We'll definitely hold him to that. It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Why don't we talk some John Tavares and our projections coming off, a 29-goal season? He's going to be around 65, 60, 70 points. I would say 25 is probably the benchmark in terms of goals, but you know what you're going to get more times than not from John Tavares.
I know. And honestly, like I'd said earlier in the show, like, you think he's going to get 40 rips. But I mean, in 22, 23, he had 36 goals. Like, I think he gets overshadowed a little bit by obviously the skill of Matthews, Marner, and Nylander, and he's not as fleet of foot, and he never has been. Don't forget, everyone's like, oh, he's slowing down. He's always been not the greatest skater in the world and gotten the job done. Like, his smarts and skill get it done for him. It's not all speed. He's not Connor McDavid, but he's still putting up points. Are we going over under goals this year or what?
Let's do 25 over under.
Yeah, 25. God, that's a good number. I think on the optimist side of things, they're going to solve their kind of woes with the power play and with scoring when it matters. And I think they're going to have a hot season. I think he's going to get over 25 goals.
Yeah, I'm with you on the over. It's a contract year. I think there's a lot of pride in that man. Whatever way you want to slice it, he was stripped of his captaincy. I expect a bit of a revenge season, a very inspired John Tavares. And don't forget, like, this guy's been a captain since he was pretty much like 14 years old with the Oshawa Generals. Like, the guy's been a bona fide sniper. I don't like the fact that he's being dragged through everything. And I know Islanders fans still hate the guy, but he's still a really, really good player. Like, people are talking like John Tavares is washed. He's finished. He has a lot left in the tank. I think if you put him in the right situation, I think he's really going to produce for this team. So I'm actually higher than some people, I would say, on John Tavares.
Well, like I said, playing beside those guys kind of overshadows him and his contract. Like, making $11 million a year just instantly makes people go, he's garbage, because he's not worth 11 million, but he is absolutely not garbage. And my question right now is, say he stays with the Maple Leafs and extends with them, whenever that happens, what is his AAV going to be? Like, what is he worth? Is he going to take a little bit of a haircut since he maybe made a couple extra dollars in the last couple of years of his contract? Is he going to help them out? Is he going to be in a bottom six role, but just be really bloody good at it? Or like, what is his value going to be? I honestly have no idea off the top of my head, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do, what role he slides into, and what he's going to, potentially sign for down the road in a completely different role than when he signed the current contract. So
ultimately there's got to be a number that makes sense for both sides, and especially and specifically for the Maple Leafs. I just don't want to see them make the same mistake again. And I know John Tavares is not going to make $11 million, but I would just kick this down the road and see how it works again with these guys. Like, don't forget, this is year 7. If it's like, who's to say that they even want John Tavares back, with all due respect? Maybe you want to, shuffle the deck, so to speak, and bring in some different flavor and some different guys. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's an unfair example maybe, but look at Tampa. They're like, Steven Stamkos, thank you for everything you've done. You won 2 Stanley Cups, went to 3 Cup finals. See you later. And sometimes you have to make cutthroat decisions, and that's just the name of the game in this business.
Yeah, and I think Tampa's crazy for doing that, but I think there's an opportunity for the Leafs here to get, because you could move on, but then to who, right? I mean, we saw it in free agency this year, like everyone's kind of gobbled up and there's just slim pickings after a while, and you're not guaranteed to get the guy you want in free agency. So I think there's an opportunity for the Leafs to get to keep John Tavares for way less value than someone else would get him, because he has already signed a massive contract. I don't know how money hungry he's going to be. He wants to prove himself. He would love to win in Toronto. This is his home. His family probably wants to stay here. There's all these things that add up to getting him for a discount. And I hope that he has a pretty good year and they get him for something that, no one else could really get him for. And it helps them out in the long run, having a guy his caliber and also not eating up a ton of cap, which is obviously their problem right now.
And certainly a lot of conversation will be had in the coming days. Again, 55 days away from the season opener. Rosie, we'll leave it at that. Many thanks, first and foremost, to Dallas Eakins for dropping by, and producer Vic doing some work in Greece, if you can believe it.
I'm jealous. He sent a picture the other day, and I was like, don't send those anymore, man. It looks beautiful. He's tailor-made for that place, but still working on LMT while he's out there. What a guy. He's the best.
We appreciate you, and we appreciate that. And obviously all the listeners as well at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcasts. And don't forget to visit the LeafsNation.com. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk soon. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.